Hey guys, welcome to my vegan kitchen. I'm Michelle. Now today's video is very personal to me and I hope you guys stick around because we're going to talk about menopause. Some of you may know that I've been going through menopause and it's been frustrating, exhausting, but also very enlightening. I'm going to have my personal doctor here today and we're going to talk all things hormones. But I'm also gonna have a delicious charcuterie board. So if you haven't subscribed, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, tap on that bell, and let's chat. All right, so I'm gathering all that I think I'm gonna need for this charcuterie board. I have some assorted crackers, and I got these from Trader Joe's. We have some fruit here, some jam. Okay, I have my charcuterie board, and I actually love this board. My daughter gave it to me one year for a Christmas present, and I didn't think I was gonna use it, but look how cute this is. Let me show you guys. It pulls out right here, and look at that. It has all of your utensils that you need for the board. So I'm gonna use that today because when my doctor get here, Dr. Nicole Peoples, I wanna have a little something for her to eat. You know, something for her to pick at. It's about midday, so I'm not sure if she's had lunch or anything like that yet, but I've always wanted to create a charcuterie board for when like guests come over. So finally I have some guests, right? And you guys get to see how a vegan charcuterie board gets put together. So let's start this. Okay. So I think I'm going to start with the fruit first. In my container here, I have some raspberries and some strawberries, washed, clean, and ready to go. So let me grab a knife, a small knife, and I'm just rolling with this. I'm taking the tops off of that one, but I think I'm going to leave some tops on and take some tops off. Let's do the same on this one. I just want to make it easy and pretty. And then I'm going to leave like this one here with the top on. Let's find a nice red one with the top on. So that's what we're going to do for our strawberries because it's just the two of us. So I'm not going to make this crazy. I'm going to add a couple of raspberries over on this side. You know, kind of separate the fruit a little bit. All right. I think that's good enough. All right, let's close this up, toss that, and let's move to the next fruit. I think I'm gonna do just a couple of slices of apples. So let's do that. Let me just cut this down the middle. All right, and let's do it this way. Now, apples are one of those things that's a little harder to chew, so I'm going to make them really thin. So this is what I think I'm going to do. On the corners will be my fruit. Okay, a couple of slices of apples right there. Just a couple of slices of apples. So yeah, guys, I decided to do this video, and you know, it's quite personal. And even though I'm on social media, I really don't. You guys don't see a lot of my personal life. You know, you see me cook and I share my recipes, but let me tell you, when menopause hit, that was a wake-up call because it was never discussed. Like I've heard a lot, it's not being discussed in the homes. And you know, maybe my mom didn't discuss it because it just wasn't something that they did at that time. But it's such a disadvantage because I didn't think I was going to be one of those women that had to experience any of this. I just thought I eat healthy, I exercise. This is not going to happen to me. And oh boy, it did. And because I was uninformed, I want to make sure that you guys are informed. So that's why I decided to take my personal situation and share it with you guys. Especially because this is such a wonderful doctor. She really took the time to break everything down and explain it to me. So I want to make sure that you guys get all this information so you can make valid decisions, you know, before it happens to you, while it's happening to you, and post-menopause after the actual symptoms kind of die down. All right, so we have our fruit on our board. Let's move on to the cheese. All right, now for the cheese. Now, I really, really want to thank my friends at Mad Cheese for sending me this wonderful assortment of gourmet cheeses. Who knew, right, that vegans can enjoy gourmet cheeses also? They sent me some goodies maybe last year, and oh my God, I fell in love with it. It was so good. So let's bust this open. I'm gonna probably use my phone to tell you exactly what they sent. They sent a couple of really good ones. So they sent Gouda Vibes. So that's this one here. They sent Greener Pastures, which I've had before, and I am in love with this one. Gouda Vibes is a new one, so I can't wait to try that. And our new, so they're very, very new, is the Black Gold, and I think that's a cheddar. Yep, so it says it's a cheddar base infused with Guinness and red onions. Ooh, that sounds good. And they also look like they have fresh mozzarella. So let's get that on the board and see what that looks like. Oh yes, all right. Let's open this one up. And like I said, Mad Cheese, I love them. They're just a small business. Everything is made in-house, which is amazing. Look at that. That is the Black Guinness. All right. So I'm not going to use all of this. I'm going to put some on the board and make sure that there's enough for Miss Dr. Nicole to be able to take, home with her. So I'm going to leave some behind. I'm going to just cut some small pieces of the cheddar so it's easy to grab. And look at that, guys. This is like some real cheddar cheese. I may just take a little bit of a taste because I haven't tasted this one. I just want to see what it tastes like. It smells good. Oh my God, you guys. Oh my God, this is good. This right here, this is good. They know how to make cheese. They really do. Mad Cheese, thank you so much for sending me this. Oh my gosh. Now for you guys, they're offering $10 off. They also do a subscription that you can, have a monthly subscription box, so you can have that sent to you also. But this is some good cheese. If you guys are like, having a get together, especially my plant-based people out there, and you want to really impress some people, bust out these cheese and don't tell them that it's vegan. They're going to be pretty impressed, because when I got it the first time, that's what I did. And my sisters, especially that we're Jamaican, my sister was like, Matin said she was vegan. And I was like, yeah, it still is vegan. The cheese are still vegan. They couldn't believe it. They were like, this is nice. This is some real good cheese. So we're gonna place this one here. And this one, like I said, this is the Greener Pastures. This I've had before. It smells absolutely delicious. And it tastes really good. All right, and this one is the Gouda Vibes. So let's bust this one open. What's nice also, they ship these and they package it really nicely. And, with ice packs, so they'll ship anywhere. So you don't have to worry that, I may not, even though they do have a brick and mortar, they will ship anywhere. All right, let's get this open. Oh, Michelle, why are you fighting with the cheese? Okay, I'm gonna do half of this one, and I'm also gonna cut this one down into little smaller bite-sized pieces, because this is a little harder, where the Gouda is, you just kind of like dip into it. This one is just a little bit harder. So I'm gonna leave these pieces right here. All right, now that we got our cheese on the board, I'm going to continue with this charcuterie board and then let you guys see what this looks like in the end. All right, I thought that it was missing something, so I grabbed some nuts. I have some cashews here. So I'm gonna add some nuts to the bowl. You know, we wanna give it a good variety of sweet and savory. So let's add our cashews right over here. All right, and I have some roasted pistachios. We're gonna add those right over here. So the nuts are kind of like on the side. All right, so I think we're good. I think this is good. I think this is good enough. You know what I do have? I still have some of those edible flowers. Let's put some of that on there because I feel like it needs a little bit of greenery. So let's add some leaves here, like right under the raspberries. Now we got it. I knew it was just missing something. Let's add some leaves there. Look at that. I love this. Now it looks like a Michelle charcuterie board. That's what we're talking about. Add some leaves under the apples. Some flowers over here by the nuts. Now it's looking like a board. Now, yes, gotta add flowers to everything. I love me some flowers. And where else? I think right here needs some. I think our charcuterie board is ready. So there was some mac cheese mozzarella right here. So I just added some toothpicks so it's easy to pick up. Add some right there. All right, okay, there we go. And then we have our utensils here so we could just pull them out. That is my charcuterie board, guys. We got some mac cheese on here. Thank you again. And some fruit, some nuts, some raspberry jam. We are good to go. Now we just have to wait for Dr. Nicole Peoples to get here and we can start our conversation. We're gonna nibble a little bit. Then we can start our conversation. You guys did send in your questions, so we'll try to answer as much of it as we can. And yeah, let's do the damn thing. All right, Dr. Nicole is here. She's here. She's here. You're gonna hear my dogs bark.
Amazing.
I had to, of course. You gotta have something to nibble on. Oh my gosh.
Let's get started.
All right, guys. Dr. Nicole is here. We're gonna get started. So you nibble away. I'm gonna get everything set up and we're gonna sit down and it's time for us to chat, guys. All right, guys. It's chit chat time. My very own personal doctor is here, Dr. Nicole Peoples. She's here to help us answer some of the burning questions that you guys have been having. Personally, I've been going through menopause and she has been a godsend. So here she is, Dr. Nicole Peoples. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys. Hey, you guys, I'm Dr. Peoples. And I'm a board-certified physician in internal medicine, but I specialize in a form of medicine called functional medicine, which focuses on getting to the root causes of people's conditions. And my passion is women's health and hormones, specifically perimenopause and menopause. And I focus on educating women on not just the lifestyle and the sort of holistic approach we can take to our hormones and our health, but also in hormone replacement, which is a pretty controversial topic.
Very controversial.
Which is why we want to talk about it more so that people can understand the benefits, the risks, and if it's right for you, in addition to all the other lifestyle stuff that you can do. So
perfect. Now I did receive a lot of you guys' questions and we'll cover a lot of it, and some of the questions I'll try to answer personally because it's a little different from the information that will be given. But let's talk about what perimenopause, menopause, and new to me, andropause. So Nicole, There you go. Please explain them all. Explain it as if you were talking to a 10-year-old.
Understood. So it can be somewhat complicated only because there isn't really a great medical explanation for these terms or definitions.
Which surprised me. I thought the doctors would all know about this, but it seems to be a disconnect somewhere.
There's a huge disconnect, which is why there's so much confusion and why there's lots of doctors who may not even recognize you going through perimenopause. But perimenopause tends to be that 8 to 10 years before your very last period. So menopause is one day. It is when you've gone 12 months without a period, and that is menopause. And then everything after that is postmenopause.
So perimenopause, you're still having a period.
You're still having a period. It may be irregular. It may be every couple of months, but for the most part, you're having a period. And once you've gone 12 months without one, then we technically say that you're in menopause.
Okay, all right.
In medical school, doctors aren't really ever taught about perimenopause at all. And the only thing that we learn about menopause is that
I don't know why. It's so funny. Like, what?
This is, I think, really important for people to understand, because we think, you know, our doctors know everything, and there's a ton that doctors don't know, and particularly around women's health. And because of that, we may go to the doctor with more information about a topic than they actually have. And that is where the disconnect comes in, where people are like, oh, I'm having all of these symptoms. And not only that, I will say that even in this term of perimenopause, the symptoms that most people attribute to this phase of life are either going to be hot flashes and night sweats, but all the other symptoms that come, they don't have any recollection or knowledge that these symptoms may also be from perimenopause.
Right. Well, that makes sense for me, because now when I think back, I was having all of those symptoms, but I just thought it was life.
Yeah.
You know, I just thought life was happening. All my friends were having those symptoms, and I just thought, you know, maybe I need to sleep more.
Yeah.
I remember being really tired, very depressed.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being just really depressed. Just a lot was happening, but I just thought, oh, it's just, that's what happened.
You're having a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
This is, you've got depression, you've got anxiety, you've got insomnia, you've got, you know, all the things, all the diagnoses, without actually recognizing that these are all the result of a decrease in your hormones.
So it's funny that you say midlife crisis,
Yes.
right? Because everybody always talks about this midlife crisis. And I must have really had a hell of a perimenopause, because at 49, I had a whole career in the beauty industry. I opened a makeup studio. It's doing well. Everything is going great, but I'm just not happy. I'm like, this is not it. I can't do this anymore. And literally, I just got up one day and was like, I don't want to do this anymore. To my business partner, it was her and I just said, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't. Could I just sell my portion of the business? And I just walked out and literally got home and was like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Thank God I have a supportive husband. And he was like, all right, we'll figure it out. And, you know, here's the second part of my life, right?
Yep.
At 50, I start posting on social media, and now I'm a content creator.
We call it a midlife crisis, but really what it is, it's our hormones are decreasing. And as a result of that, our mood changes, our energy levels change, our brain function.
I was going to say our brain function.
All of it changes. And for women in particular, you know, I was listening to something the other day where women, when their hormones are fluctuating in premenopause, they're much more sort of pliable. You know, they're less likely to speak up for themselves. And then when you go through menopause, you kind of get this umph about you that you may not have had when you were younger. You combine that with the wisdom of being older, right? So I think there's something really beautiful about menopause. But the symptoms are the thing, right?
I know. So it's like a double-edged sword, because I love where I am right now in life. Like it's crazy, because so many people think like after 50 you're so old, it's the end of everything. But I feel like just this knowledge, just like you said, I just don't care. This confidence, I could care less what anybody want to say. I will do anything. Yeah. So I love it, but what comes with it?
Yeah, and I think it's a matter of
symptoms.
The symptoms are just very much a nuisance, and they are treatable. So imagine if you could have all of this confidence, all of this greatness of being in this midlife, but your kids are gone, maybe you accomplished something in your life, and you could actually think straight, and you don't have hot flashes, and you can sleep at night.
Oh, that's heaven.
Yeah, that is heaven.
So that's what I'm going through now. that's why I wanted you here, because I wanted you to just talk to the people, give them hope, because so many women, especially from the questions that I've had and the comments that I've had, they're going through it and they're confused. They're not sure if they're going through it. So I'm going to go through some of these questions because I think they're a little bit more specific. One of the questions that, let me just get to it. One of the questions was, how do you know when you're going through it? Like, when is it menopause? And that was a really good question because I don't know that I knew it was menopause. So I turned 53 last year in May, right? And I swear to you, 2 weeks after that birthday, I was in the kitchen cooking and I was so hot. And it wasn't your normal hot, like, you know, oh, I'm hot. It was so hot that I started ripping my clothes off. I couldn't bear to have clothes on. And I was like, this seems weird. Like, what's going on? I just kind of, you know, brushed it off, you know, whatever. It probably had it once or twice that day. And I was like, okay. As the weeks started going, I was like, I wonder if this is what they call menopause or, you know, like that. Because honestly, I didn't know anything about it. My mom, I didn't see her go through it. I didn't see there was no woman around me, except for I would have clients that would get hot, you know, because guys, you know, I do lashes on the side. So I would have clients as I'm doing their lashes, I'm like, ooh, they're getting hot. And they're like, oh, I'm having a hot flash. And I remember thinking, that's not going to happen to me because my mom didn't have it because I didn't see her go through it. And from the myth that goes around that I truly believe, and I'm embarrassed to think that I even believe this, is that if you're eating healthy, you're working out, you don't have a lot of stress, you're not going to go through menopause, right? And this is like on the blogs, like people are talking about it on social media. I see tons of people that will say this. These are professionals, you know, they claim they're like trainers and they're nutritionists, and they're like, oh, this is so stupid. If you're healthy and you're doing everything you're supposed to, lifting heavy, you're not going to go through it. So I was doing all of that. So I was like, I'm not going to go through it. So I just kind of dismissed it. But I started to research a little bit because I was like, I'm doing this the natural way, because I would see all this conversation around hormone therapy. And everyone was like, don't do it. You're going to get cancer. You don't want to do that. So I was like, I'm not going to mess with that because I'm a natural girl, you know? So I'm going to do it naturally. So they started saying, you know, have raspberry tea. So I created a raspberry tea combination. I started drinking that for a little while. And I wouldn't get the hot flashes as much. You know, just started doing little things, try to reduce my caffeine. So because they said that would contribute to it. I'm not a big chocolate girl, but every now and then I want a piece of chocolate. So I'll be like, I can't do that because I don't want to get it. And it seemed okay. I seemed like I was doing okay. Maybe a couple months went by and I said to my husband one day, the hell, I can't sleep at night. Like, why am I not sleeping? Again, I love to sleep. I go to bed at 9:30. I love a good hour's sleep. And I could not sleep. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. I'm up at 2. I'm not going back till 4. And then it started to get hot and I couldn't sleep. It was just a lot. It was a lot. And then I started having an itchy back. I know that sounds weird. Like my ear would itch and my back would itch. So I would have the back scratcher. And then there's so much. It's just such like a list of things. Then my body was achy. I couldn't shake this. And it wasn't achy from working out. It was just like this weird achy. It's kind of like when I get up, I'd be like, oh my God, I think I'm getting old. I just, my hips would hurt, like this weird pain. So all of that, again, I didn't know it was menopause. I just thought this is what's happening, right? Until I was around my sisters. And my sisters are quite younger than me. They're at least 20 years is my youngest sister, younger than me, and 15 years. So I had been married and out of the house while they were still at home. You know, my parents were still raising them. And I remember I was out with my sisters and I was like, oh my God, I'm so hot. I'm so hot. And I started like ripping my clothes off. And I remember my sister said to me, oh my God, what's wrong with you? You're acting like mommy. And I was like, what do you mean I'm acting like mommy. She's like, mommy used to act just like that. She used to be like, oh, I'm so hot, I'm so hot. That's why she cut off all her hair. And I was like,
you didn't see any of that because
I was in the house.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, mommy went through menopause?
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't know what it is, but she was always hot. And that's when I came to the realization. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm going through it.
So what's crazy about the story?
I know, it was such a story, right?
It was such a story, but here's the thing. Do you know how many women have told me the exact same story?
Really?
And that's what's crazy is that everybody's having these experiences in their own little silos, and they have no idea that you're not the only one, number one. But I do think it brings up a point.
Nobody's talking about it.
Nobody's talking about it, but I think part of it is that even, for most doctors, they don't even really know how to talk about it.
My goodness.
And then our generation, our parents were not in a place where they felt comfortable talking about their medical conditions, particularly with their children.
That's true.
So, I think there's a lot that goes into it. And so we're at this sort of revolution where women are becoming doctors, and then those doctors are going through menopause.
I'm part of this revolution.
And now women are like, I'm experiencing it myself as a physician, and nobody taught me about this in medical school. So now there are more doctors who are willing to speak out and talk about this experience. But I do want to make a couple of points.
Okay.
So you had asked me originally, what is perimenopause? And I kind of gave you this sort of definition, but really what it is when your hormones start to decline. And that is going to happen in everyone. 100% of women are going to go through menopause, regardless of whether or not you're symptomatic or not.
Okay, because then I hear that. So people are like, well, I didn't get menopause.
Yeah, and I'm like, you did get menopause. Yeah, and 100% of women are going to go through menopause. Okay. And that can start as early as age 35. So, well, it's just sort of a natural thing. It's like our hormones are just naturally decreasing. And I equate it to puberty. So in puberty, when a child gets their hormones, right? They have this fluctuation in their hormones as they're building up to actually having regular periods. But puberty doesn't start just when they start their period.
You're right.
It's a couple of years before that, they start to develop breasts, they start to get hair, they get moody.
That's a good way of putting it. Now I understand it. Okay.
That makes sense. So all of those things are happening before the, actual cycle. Okay. And it happens on the other end too. So a lot of things happen before you quit having cycles. And so when I talk to people about perimenopause, it's not about whether you are going through it. You're absolutely going through it. The question is how are your hormones affecting your symptoms? And whether or not your symptoms are hot flashes or if they're depression, your hormones are playing a role, hands down. And so really what I tell people, because your original question was, how do you know when you're going through it? Well, you're going to go through it. It's going to start somewhere around 35. You may not have hot flashes at that time, although I do have patients who are 38, 39 who are having hot flashes. But a lot of people aren't having hot flashes until the end of perimenopause, they say 8 to 5 years before. That's sort of late stage. But early stage, their mood changes, energy changes, brain fog, the itching that you described, the joint aching, all of what we used to call, you're just getting old, right? That's what my auntie used to say. When you live long enough and you're going to have these issues. And it's like, live long enough and your hormones are going to decrease and that's going to cause you to have problems. So I want to just make that clear that it's not some people go through menopause and some people don't. We're all going to go through menopause. Yes.
Everybody's going to go through it.
And some people are going to have these symptoms, somebody else is going to have those symptoms, and they may not be the same, but that's not where it stops. Then it also has to do with health. Even if you have no symptoms at all, we know when you lose your hormones, your health also will decline. Heart disease goes up, bone fractures.
That's the scary part. Like when I started researching, I'm like, wait, there's more than just hot flashes. Like I have to worry about all this other stuff.
Yeah.
For me, that's scary to me is bone density. Mm-hmm. I heard that declines. Oh God, there's so much. And my mental function.
Yes.
I want to make sure that stays intact also. So, that's where you came in.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I found you.
I am too. And I'm glad that women you want to talk about it and that all of the people ask questions, because we need to be getting women to a place where they can make informed decisions. I'm not saying that hormones are for everybody, but I kind of think like hormones are for just about everybody. And all of the things that people are scared, reasons why people would not go on hormones, I think it's a conversation, but it's not a deal breaker.
So let's talk about hormone, or HRT.
Okay.
It's the acronym for it.
And we're going to use the word BHRT, so bioidentical hormone replacement.
Okay, so explain that, because when I put the post up, a lot of people ask, well, which one are you, like,
what are you on?
What are you on? And I'm like, I remember you said there was a difference.
Yeah.
I went back to your like your emails, and that's what I gave them. But please explain it.
Yeah. So initially, up until 2002, we used pretty much all synthetic hormones. And when you think about 2002, I know. And 2002 is a very specific time, because that's when the huge scare about hormones happened. So before 2002, synthetic hormones were the hormones that we use. It's still the hormones that we use in a lot of birth control pills, in birth control pills in general. And up until 2002, prescriptions were plentiful. I mean, it was one of the top selling pharmaceutical medication on the market. Yes. So I remember when my mother went through menopause, she had a hysterectomy, and at that time they used to take out everything. They used to take, when you took your uterus, you would also take the ovaries. That was sort of standard of care.
So I had a partial.
You had a partial.
For everybody to know.
Up until about 2008, they started to decide, well, we shouldn't necessarily be just taking everything out. Okay. So, but before then, they used to just take everything out, and women would go on hormones, and it was standard of care, and it was commonly prescribed. In 2002, a study came out called the Women's Health Initiative. And in that study, it showed that, or they reported that there was an increased risk of breast cancer, when in fact, that's not what it showed. Women who were on estrogen only had an actual decrease in breast cancer. And we actually saw that those patients who were on estrogen who had breast cancer had a less likely chance of death.
So why?
So there was another arm of that study that looked at estrogen and progestin, and I'm using that term very specific because it's not progesterone, and those people had an increase, a very, very statistically significant increase in the rates of breast cancer. And we attribute that to the progestin, which is a synthetic hormone.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes. So now we have a huge generation of people who are scared of hormones inappropriately. And it has taken 20 years for people to say, oh, maybe.
That's so sad.
It is sad. It's
then
very
what
sad.
happened to all those women that needed it?
Yes.
But was scared?
Yes. So there are some projections, and I think that say that there were, hundreds of thousands of lives lost as a result of women not getting hormone replacement therapy. Because again, at the time, this idea that hormone replacement therapy is only for hot flashes. How about all the women who don't have hot flashes? How about their bones? How about their heart? How about their brains? And so now we're just getting to a place where people are like, when I talk to women about hormone replacement therapy, they come in with the symptoms. But the reason I'm putting them on as a doctor, particularly as a prevention and a longevity doctor, is about sustaining the quality and the length of their life, not just helping them with hot flashes.
That's wonderful. That's so good to hear.
Yeah.
Because we have a life to live.
Yes.
A very energetic life to live.
Yes.
Let me go to another question. Unless there's anything else you wanted to add to.
No, I would, while you're looking that up, I would also just say that, if you are considering, if you're going through perimenopause, if you're over the age of 35, you should be having this conversation with your doctor. And if your doctor doesn't know enough about the topic, then you need to find somebody who does, so that you can actually have a conversation about it. I'm not saying that at 35 you need to go on hormones. What I am saying is that at that time we need to be making a connection between the symptoms that you might be experiencing and whether or not your hormones are playing a role. And I start women as early as in their 30s. Throughout their life spectrum, I will start people on hormones for various things, but particularly after 35, I'm specifically looking, is it, do we need to be putting you on hormone replacement therapy?
So one question says, please discuss hormone pellets, also sexual dysfunction.
Yes.
She got so excited.
Yeah, because it's a topic that, not many people know about or talk about. So Pellets are, so when we're talking about hormone replacement, it can be given in a lot of different ways.
Okay.
So you can give it as a cream, you can give it as a gel, you can give it as a patch, you can give it injections, particularly for men, testosterone, and then you can do pellets. Now, the reason why pellets, you don't hear about it a lot, is because it isn't an FDA approved therapy. And there are a lot of reasons for that you can go to my YouTube and listen to where I talk about like pellet therapy. But the reason why you don't hear about it is because a lot of doctors haven't been trained. And a lot of doctors who are scared of doing pellets is because they haven't been trained. They're like, well, if they didn't teach me this in medical school, then it's probably not important. But they didn't teach you a lot of things in medical school as it pertains to women's health. So pellets are just another way of getting hormones into the body. And the reason why I really love pellets is because it gives this sort of sustained release of hormones over time. So you put it in once every 3 to 4 months in women, once every 5 to 6 months in men, and then you get this nice steady state of hormones without having to put a cream on every day or to switch out a patch twice a week. So it's just an easy way of giving the hormones, and it has oftentimes fewer side effects because you get this nice steady state and not this sort of roller coaster of hormones. So pellets can be used in men and women, and they're for estrogen and testosterone.
Okay, so that's what I have, guys. I have the pellets.
Yes.
And I will tell you, it's not painful at all, because I know right away, everybody's like, oh my God, is this painful? I didn't feel anything. She placed it, I guess you said, in the fattiest part of the body. So I got it on my butt.
Yes.
And I would tell you the first week or so, I was like, all right, nothing's happening. I'm still getting hot flashes. And then I remembered one day, probably maybe 10 days in, it was probably 7 o'clock at night, and I said to my husband, oh, I didn't get hot today. And that's how I knew, like, okay, it started. Whatever it was, it started. It started to work, and I texted you right away, and I was like, I think it started, because it feels good. So I'm probably 4 weeks in now.
Yeah.
I'm about 4 weeks in. I have so much energy. One thing that I love, besides not having hot flashes anymore, I can now sleep. I now have a full, restful night's sleep. Another thing that I noticed, and I don't want to make it sound as if you're going to get this like burst of energy, like if you had a coffee, like if you drank caffeine or something like that. It's almost like you don't even notice, but you notice. It's a feeling of youth. My workouts, because guys, you know I do weight training, and I was having a hard time. I'm one of those people that will push myself, but I was having a hard time. And I noticed this week, it's so funny, the recommendation that Dr. Peoples gave me to give my trainer is for me to lift heavier weights. And I forwarded that information to him, and he was like, well, girl, I think it's time. And I was scared. I was like, oh, that squat's gonna be heavy. But I did it. And I was like, what? This like newfound energy. Oh my God. I don't care what anybody says. I'm sorry for all the people that can't, because I'm sure there's reasons why certain people can't do.
It's a very small amount.
It's very small. But if you can, I would highly, highly suggest it.
Yeah. So what most people say is that I feel like myself again.
I literally feel like I'm 20 something.
Yeah.
I feel like my brain is working again. And for a lot of you, especially those of you who follow me on Instagram, on my stories, I would talk to you guys and tell you guys that I wasn't motivated. I wasn't producing a lot of videos on Instagram. I just didn't feel like myself. And again, thank God I have such an understanding husband. I remember one day, because a lot of the symptoms, it's such a list that I didn't want to overwhelm him or my kids or anybody, like, and this is happening and this is happening. So some of it I kept to myself. But I remember one day that when I just didn't feel like myself. I remember I walked out of the bathroom and I said, I just don't feel like myself. And he was like, well, what? Well, what's going on? I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't, this is not me. I don't know what this body is. Speaking, I don't know what this body is. We're going to talk about that. I don't know what this body is. And just that now, I feel like freaking awesome. I feel so good. So when I said we're about to talk about that, that was another thing. I started gaining weight.
Mm-hmm.
Around the belly, but I couldn't lose any weight.
Mm-hmm.
So all the working out I was doing, I changed my diet. I started eating less sugar, almost like a keto, less carbs. I still wasn't losing any weight. I was like, what? This doesn't make sense. So
yeah.
Speak on that.
Yeah, so I always am cautious to tell people, hormone replacement therapy is not a weight loss drug. It's not like your Ozempics or your tirzepatides or anything like that. It is really just replacing the hormones that you've had your entire life, which have been doing something to maintain your metabolism and your fat mass versus your muscle mass. And so what hormone replacement does, and I think there's one thing we haven't really delineated. When I say hormone replacement, I mean that can include estrogen in people who require estrogen. It can include testosterone, and it can include progesterone. Some patients, a little bit of DHEA. It can also include thyroid hormone, and it can also include things that help you support insulin. So there are a lot of hormones there. When most people say hormone replacement therapy, the first thing their mind goes to is estrogen. And estrogen is not for everybody at every stage. So when you start on hormone replacement therapy, whatever combination your doctor thinks is okay with you, you can, different hormones will do different things. And so estrogen, along with testosterone, do help with maintaining muscle mass and helping you, transition that muscle into, avoid that fat avoid muscle turning into fat. Because as we get older, what we notice is that even if you're the bulkiest person or if you have a lot of muscle mass, you'll notice that when people get older and they start to lose their hormones, that muscle converts into a fat cell. So we want these hormones in here to help stabilize this system that's your body, to help you maintain muscle mass, which is why we do the body composition as well, to look at your body composition when you start hormones.
That was interesting.
We're not going to talk about that. But what we want to do is we want to maintain muscle mass as we get older. This is extremely important for health and longevity. And so with hormone replacement therapy, it can help you with body composition and making sure that your muscle mass is retained and you're not developing a lot of excess fat. And I will say that one of the reasons why women do gain more fat when they get older is that the fat cells are actually an organ, and your body changes testosterone into estrogen through your fat cells. So when you start to lose estrogen, your body's doing a defense mechanism. It's basically like, let's keep some fat around so I can have a organ to give this person more estrogen. So we just give you the estrogen so your fat cells don't have to do it anymore.
It's a lot. Question, and I don't want to divert from the hormone therapy, but someone is asking, are there not natural infusions they can drink or something they can do besides having to go that route?
Not besides. So there are definitely nutrients and foods that are going to help with your perimenopausal transition, things that you should be doing. When people ask me what's like the perfect diet, what diet should you eat, there are lots of ways to answer that, but it's going to be different for everybody. And there are going to be certain guide rails that I would say on everyone. If you want to have a healthy diet, you got to eat enough vegetables, you got to have enough protein, those sorts of things. And when we talk about supplements and nutrients, there are things that can enhance your body's ability to function. And that may look like symptom control, but there's nothing that you can do to replace your hormones. And the consequences of not having hormones, sometimes it's those symptoms like the hot flashes, and sometimes it's heart disease, and sometimes it's lack of bone health, and sometimes it's loss of muscle mass. And so that function of hormones you cannot replace with a supplement or herb or anything. So in my practice, I do recommend supplements. I do nutrition advice. All of that's important. We also talk about, how you should work out and all of these things. It's really a combination.
It's a combination of everything.
It's not just one thing, but there's not anything out there that has been found.
And that's what I realized.
To get those benefits, you need the hormones.
So I'm glad you touched a little bit on nutrition, because being that I am vegan, this is a vegan channel. It doesn't mean that you have to be vegan. Guys, you know me already. I am not the vegan police at all. I think that everybody should listen to their body and tailor your diet to what works best for you. If you have to eat meat, eat meat. You know, if you prefer to be on a plant-based diet, go right ahead and do that. Just make sure that you're doing your research, you're getting the knowledge, so you're able to give your body what it needs. Nicole definitely suggested I up my vegetable. You would think I ate enough vegetables, right? But, you know, up my vegetables a little bit more. So I've added definitely more vegetables, lower my sugar consumption. I've lowered that, and the supplements that she also recommends that I take with the therapy that I'm on. Right?
And there are certain supplements, you know, specifically when you're on hormone replacement therapy to help with metabolizing some of those hormones. So there are some specific things that we do in conjunction with the hormone replacement therapy. But for those people who come to me and they say, I want to do everything naturally, and I don't argue with that, but what I do say is, what are your goals, right? What are you trying to achieve? If you're just looking for symptom control, there may be some supplements out there that may help you with your hot flashes. There's also, we could always do some sort of supplement to help you with sleep or constipation or anything like that. But if your goal is actually to live healthier for longer,
of it too?
What?
Constipation?
Constipation is,
I'm sorry.
yes.
It's just so much.
Well, it's when we start looking at the body as a whole and not as like individual things. And that's why I think in our culture, we have a tendency to say, oh, all of this needs to, everything that's wrong with your kidneys is separate than everything that's wrong with your heart, which is separate than what's happening with your ovaries. And what I try to do in my practice and explain to people is that they all overlap. Your gut impacts everything.
I've realized that as I get older.
And if you're not pooping, I don't want you on hormones.
Oh.
I don't want you on hormones until you're pooping. Or at least we need to be working towards you pooping. Every day, because your microbiome, the intestinal system, has an impact on your hormones.
Oh,
so none of these things are separate. They don't operate in silos.
And that's what I'm noticing, that every part of the body is working all together. So, you know, that usually in medical terms, everything is separated. It's like your stomach is separate from your muscle, is separate from your brain, is separate from, but it's all together. And I'm so glad that I found you, because I'll be honest with you, in all my years of going to the doctor, and I'm not a doctor girl, like I don't go for every single thing, but one thing I always did was every year I'd go for my annual checkup, right? I've never, ever had a doctor as thorough as you. And it's sad because, you know, you normally go to your PCP and you think that they're going to tell you all this stuff. And usually I go in there with more information than they do. And I kind of listen to what they have to say. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, and I'll ask a question. They'll be like, well, you know, you can just like, you know, so I think what I'm trying to say, it's really, really important. And one of the questions here was like, how was I able to find you?
Well, your case was
I was lucky by divine intervention. You know, and I hate to sound like that, because I wouldn't have known if that person didn't suggest you. I would have went to my regular doctor, because, and that's what I think is happening for most women. They're all just going to their doctor and they're just like hitting this wall, like, well, I guess nothing's wrong with me. We'll leave Dr. Peoples' information. All this information is going to be in the description box, but what I guess I'm trying to say, can they still seek help with you if they don't live in Atlanta?
So there are a couple of ways to find doctors. Or do you have
suggestions?
So my training was through the Institute of Functional Medicine. They do have a website that like lets you find doctors. Now that doesn't mean that those doctors are going to be specializing in hormones, but at least to get you to a place where you're talking to a doctor who's thinking about the full picture and not just a solitary organ. That's a great place to start. There's another, the A4M, or the Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, is also a place. I do pellets through with a company called Avexipel or Avexia, so you can always look for a practitioner that does pellets through Avexipel. So there are different ways that you can search to find a practitioner in your area.
I'll leave all that in the description box.
Yes.
Okay.
And then for me, I do health coaching that can be done anywhere. That's a virtual offering that I have, but you do have to be a Georgia resident to be able to get prescription medication. But in my health coaching, I do a lot of education on how to get what you need from your doctor, right? So even if you live, let's say, in Maryland or Texas, what I typically will do is I'll tell you what labs you need, how to interpret those labs, and what to ask your doctor for.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so that you are helpful outside of them not being here.
Yeah.
That's perfect. I will have Dr. Peoples back and we can have more discussion. I'm sure you guys are going to have more questions. But besides perimenopause, menopause, and I'm gonna try to say this right because I think I messed up the pronunciation before. Andropause? Andropause.
Yes.
What else do you do?
Yeah. So we always talk, I mean, as little conversation there is about menopause and perimenopause, there's even less conversation about andropause. And you probably never heard of it because nobody talks about it. But
I didn't hear about it till I met you.
Yeah. It's for men, right? This idea that, women are the only people who are losing their hormones is absolutely not true. Men also lose their hormones after, in their 30s. And it's not, they lose testosterone. They also lose other hormones as well, but mainly for men, it's testosterone. And the issue here is that as you lose testosterone, you get some of the same symptoms as menopause. So loss of energy, loss of focus, loss of motivation, loss of muscle mass, an increase in fat mass, problems with sleeping. Some men have night sweats or even just day sweats, like hot flashes themselves with that low testosterone.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And nobody's talking about it.
Nobody talks about it. So men don't even recognize it.
And men are not going to talk about it.
No, but I tell you, you get a man on testosterone and they won't stop talking about it.
They'll tell everybody.
Yeah, because then they're like, I feel like myself again. And I always tell men, when we, talk about testosterone in men, in a conventional world, there's like a cutoff for when we say that your testosterone is low. But if you don't know what your testosterone was when you were in your 20s, and it's half of that now, even if it's above that cutoff number, you can still be symptomatic. And so we want to talk to men not just about what their number is, because there's a big, push on testing, but it's not about just the number, it's also the symptoms. So you got to know what questions to ask so that you can actually pull that out of men, because men won't necessarily come in and say, listen, I'm feeling more tired than usual, my brain's not working as well as it used to, I've lost my motivation. They won't necessarily say that unless you ask.
And you provide that online coaching also.
Yeah.
I love it. Love it. Perfect. All right. Anything else you want to add?
No,
I feel like we covered a lot of the questions that was asked. And I'm just so glad.
Yeah.
I am so happy. Guys, you see why I had to talk about this with you guys, because I feel amazing. I don't care what anybody has to say about HRT. I'm going to push this. I'm going to tell everybody. Everybody I meet, I'll be like, how old are you?
Yeah.
You might be going through this. You might want to try it, because I feel so good. I feel like a new person.
Yeah.
Like I literally was in her office crying before I even felt it, because I was like, wow, somebody's actually listening to me. And I think that's what's important. We need people that are listening and giving us the advice, the information that we need.
Yeah.
So we can live a long, healthy, like, who wants to get old and be old? Like,
Nobody wants to, but it's like we think it's inevitable. And it's not,
guys. It's not.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody's saying. It's not. This is a whole different time. We don't have to be like our parents were. I wish my mom had known about this, because I think that's what contributed a lot to her passing, at 52, which makes sense to me now. Now I make the connection. She had a stroke. She probably was going through all of this and had nowhere to turn.
Yeah.
And, her heart declined. And just everything that I'm learning about, I'm like, oh my gosh, I think my mother was going through this. Yeah. And then finally she had a heart attack, and she died so young, like literally like 60.
Yeah.
Like, that makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, just with that in mind, that women's risk of heart disease is actually much lower than men until menopause. And once you go, and when I say go through menopause, meaning that time where you've been a year without periods, and that means your estrogen, testosterone levels and progesterone levels have just dropped. They're just like almost non-existent. Once you get to that point, your risk
Yeah.
of heart disease goes up dramatically.
So it's funny, years ago, they started talking a lot, I guess I was like in my 30s, about the silent killer. You know, women going through the silent. You know, I think it was this.
Yeah.
I think it was literally they're going through perimenopause and menopause, and because no research was being done, they were just like, it's just a silent killer. They're just stressed out and they're gonna have a heart attack. But really, it was just a loss in your. It's so much.
I'm gonna
more,
say
and I'm glad.
It's a constellation of things. It's the hormones and lifestyle. That's why we have to address all of it together.
All of it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I'm here for the food.
Yes.
So Dr. Peoples is here for the medical information. Yes. I will leave everything in the description box. I am so thankful that you guys decided to tune in, and we'll have more conversations in the future. And again, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Don't forget to subscribe. I will also leave Dr. Peoples' link for her YouTube, because she has a lot of great information on there. Sometimes I'll just sit there and just watch it, and I'm like, everybody needs to hear this. Why is nobody tuning in? So I'm going to leave her link also. Yeah. She's also on Instagram.
Yeah, you can find me everywhere at Dr. Nicole Peoples. That's Dr. Nicole Peoples. All that will be in the description. So.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love you.
Bye, guys. I love you too. You changed my life. Thank you. Bye, guys.